Alright, so in this one I'm going to go through a simple angled wall. So this is quite simple, but there's a different approach to it. So normally speaking, when we do a new wall, we will go into this selection here, and we can pick a point and draw the wall and so on. However, this only does a square wall. So if we want to do an angled wall, we'll have to be a little bit more creative. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually created a model, a CAD model within this called angled wall, and you've probably seen it in one of the previous videos, right? So Z wall angled, yeah. Right, so this is basically a CAD model, no different than what we use for an end panel or maybe a cabinet or whatever, but I've made a material called wall, and basically, wall is applied to this singular panel. But what we can do with a cabinet in this is we can actually give it angles and stuff like that, which you'll see later on with some complex jobs. So look, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure the width of the space here, right? I'm going to assume this is an angled wall, for example, so 1500, right? I'm going to change the width of this to 1500, right? And that's the height of this wall, 2500. So I'm going to make this wall 2500, right? And we're going to assume that it angles down from that point. So I'm going to just put it in there, right? I'm going to rotate the selection 90 degrees, right? I'm going to just bang it in there. I'm going to see, how does that look? Oh, okay, that's there. Now, that's an angle that I've set from before. That might actually not be correct for this house. Okay, so what we need to do is, when the wall is there, we actually need to double click on it, and we go into the cabinet editing mode, right? And now you can see here, and in here is where you can change the angle of it. It's also where you can fine tune any features on a cabinet. You might want to change the drawers, change the drawer depth, change the handle, change some sort of hardware, add in a couple of drillings, don't know, whatever it is. This is where you go anyway to do the editing. And as you can see over here on the right, the material on this is actually wall. I've made a material called wall. So to edit this, we need to go to the top left, and we need to modify, and we need to go down to top, and we need to go to multiple slope top. Now you can see in here another magic line. Now, when we're in the wall and floor editing mode, we do see a similar kind of screen. However, that's looking down from the sky. This is actually looking at it straight on. So if I move this up or down, you can see that the angle on the cabinet changes. Now, it's not much good just changing it up and down and hoping that it's right. You actually need to have a measurement on it. So if we know how far down from the highest part of the ceiling to where the angled wall ends and actually hits the vertical wall, we put that measurement in here. So I'm just going to stick in 800, for example, but it could be 756. It could be anything you want it to be, which is quite powerful then, especially if you're putting angled cabinets in, because this same editor then will allow us to work the way back. Now, I even think this has relative angle, yeah, so minus 153.25 degrees. It is possible to work out, if you have an angle finder, what the angle is, and you can do a bit of math, because you might need to add 180 degrees or 90 degrees onto it. You can put that in there, and it'll give you exactly, So let's just say, for example, I want this to be 135, minus 135. It could be any number, but that's exactly what it is, if that's what I've measured, But, generally speaking, coordinates is the best one to go by. Minus, yeah, so I'm just going to stick it in minus 1000, be alright. So I'd recommend anyone kind of mess around in here anyway and see what they can get it to do. Now, for some reason, every time I change it, it adds this top panel in. So look, just come in here and change that to a nil panel. It just gets rid of it, right? Close that, save it. If I go back into the job here now, we have our angled wall, the same as what we measured in the house, for example. Okay, now one other thing to point out here is you're not limited to one point going to another point. If I go back in here to modify top, multiple slope top. If I just go back up to 0, I can stick in, so this one is 1500 out, right, I can stick in another point, right, so 1500. If I know that the wall starts to angle at 800, I can change that to 800, and then I can move this one down. I can't move that one down actually. No, I can. Yeah, move that down. It's about, yeah, 350. See, oh, actually, this is going the other way. No, I need to work my way back. So that's just 150. 800 minus 150. Oh, I can't do math. I think it's 700. It is 700. Yeah. So I need to work back. This is actually 700, which means that the point distance between these 2 points is 800. If I go in here, yes, change that to 0. I should back down 2000. We have a strong angle, 200 in relative coordinates. Yeah. So I hit that and have to change these little top pieces back to nil panels. Now we'll see how we look. Yeah. So it looks the business. It's very useful when doing wardrobes. Very useful because we can use the same coordinates on the cabinet. Polyboard will send drawings to VCarve of all the parts with the correct angles on them. You will have to trim them on the saw. However, the ones you do have to trim on the saw, Polyboard also makes a printout telling you what length and what angle exactly, down to like 100 of a degree, or 2 decimal places after a degree. So it's very accurate. So yeah, I think that's everything you need to know on walls, windows, doors, and floors. There is a couple more advanced things, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I suppose.